Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our August ordinary meeting of Council, acknowledging all councillors present today and CEO Brian Pidgeon. Welcome to those who are in the gallery and those who are watching online, as this meeting is open to the public and is live streamed, and welcome to officers that are here now and will subsequently follow through the day. No doubt they'll be watching online as well. Can I begin, councillors, by acknowledging the Aboriginal parties whose songlines traverse these lands we meet on today, the Western Waka Waka, the Gibel and Jarrawa peoples, and pay respects to the elders past, present and emerging, for they hold the knowledge, rich tradition and bold ambition of Australia's first peoples. Councillors, today I would also like to recite the Australian Defence Veterans Covenant, and in doing so highlight two commemorative moments in our history, and particularly for our region, that have happened only last weekend and will happen this weekend. On Sunday just gone, the 18th of August, was the Vietnam Veterans Day, on the anniversary of the Battle of Long Tan in 1966, where there are almost 60,000 Australians serving over the 10-year period of the Vietnam War, and we remember the 523 who did not come home. This Sunday, there's a ceremony of remembrance for the 82nd anniversary of the Battle of Milne Bay. That'll take place the mid-morning service, 11 a.m. till 12:30 at the Mothers Memorial Gardens. And of course, that's steep in our history of the 25th Battalion. So this morning, councillors, I'll read the Australian Defence Veterans Covenant. We, the people of Australia, respect and give thanks to all who have served in our Defence Force and their families. We acknowledge the unique nature of military service and the sacrifice demanded of all who commit to defend our nation. We acknowledge to preserve the memory and deeds of all who have served and promise to welcome, embrace and support all military veterans as respected and valued members of our community. For what they have done, we will do. Thank you, councillors. And this morning, I also wanted to take a moment to acknowledge the Drayton and Toowoomba Cemetery team, particularly as a values moment for this organisation. You will have seen, and the community will have seen, the absolute destruction and vandalism at our Drayton Toowoomba Cemetery. And our dedicated team at the cemetery have obviously felt that as well, and dealing with many distressed families as a result of this vandalism. So I'd like to particularly call out that team. In doing so, I'd also acknowledge the overwhelming and outpouring of community support from members of our community and businesses who have offered and willingness to help out. But to also all of our staff across council who have reached out to our cemetery team and also offered assistance. And I guess it shows that in times when we need to support each other, we do as a community. And this has demonstrated that quite clearly. So to all of our team at the Drayton Toowoomba Cemetery, we particularly acknowledge you this morning as a values moment for Toowoomba Regional Council, but also for our community. Councillors, that's a great segue to our deputation this morning. And our deputation is from Joe Capp, the Regional Manager of Hope Horizons Incorporated. And there's probably no greater example of community collaboration than Hope Horizons. And it's a great pleasure, Joe, to welcome you here today. And I know you have a presentation, but very much looking forward to hearing what you've got to say and sharing the Hope Horizons story. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you very much, Mayor Jeff, and thank you all very much for having me here today. We're going to start off with a little video that I've sent through. Some of you have seen this video. But before we start, I just wanted to let you know that the lady that has been my right hand and my left hand passed away suddenly on Friday night, and she's actually opening this video, Chris Harrigan. So please remember her as we're watching this video. Sound.
Hearing the words "you have cancer" can be very frightening, and you are going to question how you're going to get through it. and who can help you with that.
Well, back in 2016, a small group of people got together with a plan, and that plan was to provide a place of comfort for anybody in the community that has been diagnosed with cancer. We knew we would need help to find or build a place that would be able to deliver the plan. But in 2018, we were offered a facility on Drayton Road that would enable us to put the plan into action. So from the success of that, Harvey and Jenny Black decided that they would support Hope Horizons with a new venture.
Now when you hear the words "you have cancer," those questions will still be there. But now we have the answers to diminish the impact of this sentence. The Jenny Black Cancer Wellness Centre is here and open, and there are so many people and businesses and service clubs we wish to thank.
Now, it has not been easy. It's been a huge learning curve because none of our people have been involved with this before. So it's a lot of talking, a lot of listening, and a lot of adjusting as we've learnt some of the finer arts of how to provide such a facility to so many people in the community. And the generosity of this community is second to none.
I started coming just before Christmas. It was in the middle of my treatment. Towards the end of your treatment, that you realise that you're going to suddenly be on your own. And this is where I think Hope Horizons picks up on that assistance that you need to go forward, no matter where you are in your cancer journey. Even if it's towards the end of life, they are there to support. Since I've been coming here, it's the most wonderful, safe environment to let yourself be and to nurture yourself. And the therapists that work here are amazing, and they know how to let you deal with that stress and anxiety and the tears when they come. I just can't thank the staff enough. The actual centre itself is amazingly beautiful. All the rooms are incredibly warm and good energy, even down to the toilets. The wonderful toilets. It's a pleasure to go into the toilets because of the beautiful decor in there. And I can't wait to watch the garden develop and to watch children healing in that space.
I'm not quite sure how I came across Hope Horizons, but I'm thankful that I did. September 2018, I was diagnosed with prostate cancer, and I came across Hope Horizons. But I've continued to use the services of Hope Horizons over the last 5 years. The friendly environment has been most helpful to me in my journey. Hope is also very important, and the research shows that hope in a journey through cancer is just so important. That's one of the things that you definitely need, and I needed anyway, right at the very start. And here they are in this fabulous new facility, the Hope Horizons Jenny Black Cancer Wellness Centre. And I'm so thankful that I've found this organisation. The growth has been incredible, the support that the organisation gains is incredible, and thanks to the Black family for the injection of funding that they've provided that's making such a difference for so many cancer sufferers in Toowoomba. I'm not getting paid enough for this, I know that right now. You're taking advantage of my good nature.
There is still lots to do. There will always be lots to do. But we love our new home, and there are so many reasons why.
So on behalf of the 1,000-odd clients that Hope Horizons has on its books today, I would sincerely like to thank Harvey and Jenny Black for providing us with this wonderful facility that will take us into the next generation.
Hey.
Oh, Cheryl.
Oh, come on,
I'm busy.
No, we need you here.
No, can't come. Go away.
Thank you also to everyone who has contributed to this build. Last count, there were 67 stakeholders involved, and we highly value every single one of you. Thank you. So summing up, Hope Horizons is an allied healthcare service provided by the Toowoomba Regional Community for the regional community. We provide allied healthcare in the form of many ways, oncology massage, lymphedema massage, right through to clinical hypnotherapy. We have an array of wellness programs also including pottery and Tai Chi and a gym program. All of these programs are currently offered to anyone impacted by cancer at no out-of-pocket expense. So we fundraise to pay for all the services provided. So the community support is imperative to our survival. I consider myself firstly a collaborator here in this city, secondly a community advocate, and thirdly a professional fundraiser. In this region, this is a job I have easily navigated. It is no secret that Toowoomba is one of the most generous cities in our country. And we have so many organisations like ours providing excellent services to everyone in the region, and our generous community seems to continue to be eager to assist. I attended the Mark McCrindle breakfast last week, and he mentioned that Toowoomba had the triple green light on population growth. That is 43% on overseas migration, 39% internal and interstate migration, and 17% on natural population growth, therefore making Toowoomba one of the fastest growing cities in Australia. People are moving here for a variety of reasons, but most people are moving here because they see Toowoomba as a terrific future space for their businesses and a great place to bring up their family. And our infrastructure, by way of housing, education, and of course health, has to keep up with this growth. Another statistic that Mark McCrindle did not discuss last week is one that's known to me very, very well. 50% of us will be diagnosed with cancer before we turn 80, and the other 50% of us will be looking after that person. That means 100% of us will be impacted in cancer in our lifetime. This means that allied healthcare to help us live well with cancer is imperative for the future growth of our region. And Hope Horizons needs to be recognised as a formal part of the medical fraternity within our city. We all know if we live well, we'll reduce the dollar impact on our health resources. And Hope Horizons is providing an opportunity to the people of Toowoomba and southwest Queensland an affordable option to maintain their health and live well with their cancer. We receive no financial support from any level of government, and yet we're providing a service that reduces that overall cost to government. I've spoken to all levels of government, and I don't expect financial support from any of them. However, what I do expect is collaboration and recognition. We as charities can only continue to do for our region when our local and our state officers recognise the hard work we are doing collectively. Charity and not-for-profit organisations should not be treated the same way a corporate organisation is. And let's face it, it's now a fact. Governments are relying on our community to build our hospitals. We have the Toowoomba Hospital Foundation, take care of our homeless, the base services and Protea Place, and provide the allied healthcare. Blush, It's a Blokes Thing, and Hope Horizons. May I request that our red tape requirements be reduced wherever possible? Is there a way to allow not-for-profit services to be semi-resistant to the processes that we have to do to ensure the growth of our region's charitable services? Is it possible for our council officers to collaborate with us too? An example of how council could have collaborated actually happened a few weeks ago, and I emailed you all on this. As you know, we're currently upgrading an existing shed on our site into a music and art therapy space. Keo Myers had completed all of the engineering drawings, including the hydraulics, and the existing shed was included on these drawings in the original build for 2023 for GFG projects. And this was done as a 100% donation to Hope Horizons. The builder currently working on the music and art space currently used these drawings, they're not even 12 months old, and added one small sink to the shed for tea and coffee making facilities. This required very little changes or additions to the existing site drawing. As I mentioned in my email to you all, this was not allowed by the Plumbing and Drainage Office here, and the officer was quite adamant that new drawings would have to be done, as this is a new build. Yes, it is a new build, And yes, we are trying to save some money. More drawings, more money, more cost, more fundraising, or more generosity. Thankfully, Keogh Myers did the drawings for us again for free, costing them more money. I believe this is one of those little circumstances where TRC could collaborate. I ask you all to consider new policies and procedures when not-for-profit or charity organisations are building an organisation or building something for the betterment for our region. Hope Horizons is looking to commence working on stage 2. A major capital project plan is currently being written to redevelop the attached property on our upside at 235 North Street. We're considering more spaces for allied healthcare and perhaps accommodation option, and we're looking at collaborating with some of our other health charities here in town. I hope Toowoomba Regional Council will see this as an additional amazing plus for our region, and this presents itself as a terrific opportunity to collaborate with us to ensure a speedy development process. There's a great quote, "Individual commitment to a group effort, that is what makes a team work, a company work, a society work, and a civilisation work." The work I've done over the past years for Toowoomba community has crescendoed with the build of the Jenny Black Cancer Wellness Centre for Hope Horizons. As you heard in the video, this community build was completed with the support from 67 very proud stakeholders. That's 67 different organisations, businesses, service clubs, and individuals who have given their time, their expertise, their dollars to build a cancer wellness centre where every single person, that means 100% of us, will be impacted by cancer, can utilise allied health services at no out-of-pocket expense. Collectively, every one of us in this room, we should all be very proud of what we have achieved for our region. I thank you all very much for your time and ask you all to consider my request to look for an opportunity to rewrite policy and procedure around not-for-profit and charity building for development within our region. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joe. We have got time just for 2 questions, if I could. Councillor Carroll.
I haven't got a question. I wanted to thank Joe very much for coming, and having been a person who was on the ground at the very first fundraiser out at Prestbury, it's amazing to see where this has come for the goodwill of our community, the efforts of volunteers, and I have to pay tribute and rest in peace, Chris. She was the most amazing person, and she was there almost from the very beginning as well. Yes. So having been in Gundawindi when I needed a service like this, I had 2 young nurses, so knew very, very much how it was so badly needed. And then also my grandson, who was 12, and we know that there was nothing like that here for him at that time. So, and I look forward to the children's playground for Ellie's playground, but I pay tribute to the ones who've gone, Peter and everyone who's been on board right from the start. It has been a long journey, particularly to the Black family, because they've actually allowed this to take a big leap, and all the clubs, professional organisations, and even just ordinary people on the ground that have done whatever they could to help here, because we should be very proud of this facility. We should be very proud, hope we're not there, but at the end of the day, we know the people who need it are having the care that they deserve. Thank you very much, Joe.
Thanks, Carol.
Thank you. Any other questions? If there's not, I only have one question, Joe, if I could, and that's
Yes.
in regard to the potential to work with Queensland Health,
Yes.
a new hospital that's only a stone's throw away from where you are. Has there been conversations with Queensland Health in regard to the services you're providing?
Yes, there has, and it's been very positive. So Annette Scott came and saw the site, and it has actually, her exact words were, the cancer solution for Toowoomba region will be the actual inclusion of Hope Horizons providing allied health care to the new Cancer Regional Centre. So that is really positive for us. So we're very excited about the future.
That's very good, and it hopefully will help from an operational cost perspective as well.
Yes, thank you.
That's recognised.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, Joe. Round of applause for Joe. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Now, Joe, you are free to go, or if you'd like to stay, you can stay. But I know that you would have a million things you're trying to do. So good on you. Thank you, Joe. Good on you. Thank you, councillors. Just a reminder to log into the meeting too. Has that all happened, Deanne? Everyone has logged in. Anyway, you'll know if you haven't. Just certainly do that. We move then to item number 3, councillors, which is the attendance, including apologies, leave of absence, granting leave of absence and declaration of conflicts of interest. And we have no apologies today, but we do note the leave of absence of Councillor Von Hoff, which was already taken care of. I do have one granting of leave of absence from Councillor Edwina that's notified here. Councillor Edwina?
Thank you, Chair. I wish to ask for a grant of leave of absence from the special meeting of Council, which will be scheduled on the 2nd of October 2024, and the committee meetings on 12th and 13th of November 2024. Thank you.
Thank you. Someone happy to move? Moved by Councillor Carroll, seconded by Councillor Trevor. Those in favour? Motion's carried. Thank you. Now, as we know, councillors, there's 2 types of conflicts of interest. There's a prescribed conflict and there's a declarable conflict. Prescribed is quite simple. You remove yourself from any discussions or voting that takes place. Declarable conflicts are quite different and are treated accordingly. And today we have a number of declarable conflicts of interest for item number 8.1, and councillors will have been given that information. We'll begin and stick with that order. The only change will be that I'll remove myself to the last declaration. So, Councillor Farquhar, if we start with you.
Thank you, Chair. In relation to item number 5, confidential planning and environmental court of appeals, compensation claims, July 2024. In relation to matter 5, matter number 2, I request that it be minuted that I declared a declarable conflict of interest in relation to item number 4, MCUI 2022-3590, development application for a development permit for material change of use, impact, extension to educational establishment located at 46 to 50, 51 and 53 Wirrawirra Street, East Toowoomba. At the special meeting of Council of 29th of November 2023, and of my decision to leave the meeting while the matter was discussed and voted on. As the relevant circumstances have not changed, I will leave the meeting while this matter is discussed and voted on.
Thank you, Councillor Edwina. Councillor James.
Thank you, Mayor. So I have a declaration of declarable conflict of interest, item number 5, confidential planning and environment court appeals and compensation claims, July 2024. In relation to item number 5, matter number 1, I request that it be minuted that I declared a declarable conflict of interest in relation to item number 5, confidential planning and environment court appeals and compensation claims, January 2024. At the Planning and Development Committee meeting of the 13th of February 2024, and of my decision to leave the meeting while the matter was discussed and voted on. As the relevant circumstances have not changed, I will leave the meeting whilst this matter is discussed and voted on.
Thanks, Councillor James. Councillor Melissa.
Thank you, Chair. In relation to item number 5, matter number 1, I request that it be minuted that I declared a declarable conflict of interest in relation to item 5, confidential planning and environment court appeals and compensation claims, January 2024, at the Planning and Development Committee meeting of 13th of February 2024, and of Council's decision to allow me to participate in the decision about the matter, including by voting on the matter. As the relevant circumstances have not changed, I will participate in the decision about the matter, including by voting on the matter.
Thank you, Councillor Melissa. Councillor Carroll.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. In relation to item number 5, matter number 1, I request it be minuted that I declared a declarable conflict of interest in relation to item 5, confidential planning and environment court appeals and compensation claims in January 2024. At the Planning and Development Committee meeting on the 13th of February 2024, and of Council's decision to allow me to participate in the decision about the matter, including by voting on the matter. As the relevant circumstances have not changed, I will participate in the decision about the matter, including by voting on the matter.
Thanks, Councillor Carroll. Councillor Kerry.
Thanks, Chair. In relation to item number 5, confidential planning and environment court appeals and compensation claims, July 2024. In relation to item number 5, matter number 2, I request that it be minuted that I did declare a declarable conflict of interest in relation to item number MCU 2022-3590, development application for a development permit for a material change of use, impact, extension to educational establishment located at 4650, 51, 53 Wirrawirra Street, East Toowoomba, at the special meeting of Council of the 29th of November 2023, and of Council's decision to allow me to participate in the decision about the matter, including by voting on the matter. As the relevant circumstances have not changed, I will participate in the decision about the matter, including by voting on the matter. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Kerry. Councillor Tim?
Thanks, Chair. In relation to item number 5, I request that it be minuted that I declared a declarable conflict of interest in relation to item number 5 in the Planning and Environment Court Appeals and Compensation Claims of January 2024 at the Planning and Development Committee meeting 13th of February in relation to number 2. I also request that I declare a declarable conflict of interest in relation to item number 4, material change of use at an educational facility 46 to 50 Wirrawirra Street, East Toowoomba, at the special meeting of Council in 29 November 2023. As the relevant circumstances for both of these matters have not changed, I will participate in the decision about the matters, including by voting on the matters. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tim. I have the declaration of declarable conflict of interest for item number 5, confidential planning and environment court appeals and compensation claims May 2024. In relation to item number 5, matter number 1, I request that it be minuted that I declared a declarable conflict of interest in relation to item number 5, confidential planning and environment court appeals and compensation claims January 2024 at the Planning and Development Committee meeting on the 13th of February 2024, and of my decision to leave the meeting while the matter was discussed and voted on. As the relevant circumstances have not changed, I will leave the meeting while the matter is discussed and voted on. Councillors, are there any other declarable conflicts of interest that anyone knows about? If there's not, and if something crops up through the course of the meeting, please alert the Chair at that time and we'll deal with it at that point in time. Councillors, we then move to item number 4, which is the confirmation of minutes. The ordinary meeting of Council was the 16th of July 2024. All were present, and the motion is that the minutes of the ordinary meeting of Council dated 16th of July 2024 be confirmed. Can I have someone mover for that, please? Moved by Councillor Trevor, seconded by Councillor Melissa. Those in favour? Motion's carried unanimously. Our second confirmation of minutes is for the special meeting on the 7th of August 2024. Councillor Carroll was absent at that meeting. The motion is that the minutes of the special meeting of Council DA dated 7th of August 2024 be confirmed. Someone move that. Moved by Councillor James, seconded by Councillor Gary. Those in favour? Motion is carried unanimously. We move, councillors, to item number 5, which is business arising out of the minutes. Any business arising out of the previous minutes? If not, we move to petitions, which is item number 6, presentation of petitions. Are there any petitions, councillors, today? If there's no petitions, we move then to item number 7, which is the mayoral minute, items to be discussed. Now we'll come up on the screen a mayoral minute for consideration for councillors, which is simply that Council authorised the inclusion of any councillor to join the official council delegation at Toowoomba Carnival of Flowers Singapore Gardens by the Bay, subject to no additional costs incurred by council. And the reasons for the motion will come up on the screen as well, potentially, Wendy. And if not, I'll read them. All councillors are deeply committed to ensuring strong representation of our region at this unique event, and to the extent that, in addition to the formal delegation, some councillors may choose to travel to Singapore at their own personal expense. So the motion is there, councillors. I'm happy to move that. I have a second. Second by Councillor McMahon. Those in favour? Motion's carried unanimously. We move, councillors, to item number 8. Now, this is where it gets a little bit tricky, but we'll work through it in a systematic process and approach. Item number 8 is the reception of consideration of committee reports, and the first one is item 8.1, which is the Planning and Development Committee. Now, there's a couple of items in there, and we've referred to our declarations that have just been read, particularly around for items number 3, for item number 5, Planning and Environmental Court. So the first motion that we have to do, because we will deal with these separately, and naturally I'm out of the room for the first of these. Therefore, as we have done previously, for the second item, sorry, Wendy, the first motion is that the report of the Planning and Development Committee dated 13th of August 2024 be received, and with the exception of item number 5, the recommendations there and adopted. So item number 3 was the regional development statistics. That's right. So that's the first option. exception of number 5. This was the first motion for the planning. Moved by Councillor Edwina, seconded by Councillor Tim. Those in favour? Those against? We're all in favour? All in favour, thank you. We move then, councillors, to appoint a chair, as I will be removed from the room for item number 5, matter number 1. Councillor Melissa.
Thank you, Chair. I will nominate Councillor McMahon to chair the meeting.
Councillor McMahon. Okay. So the motion before us then is that Councillor McMahon be appointed as chair in the absence of Councillor Jeff McDonald due to a declaration of declarable conflict of interest. So we might just, is that possible, Wendy? Sorry, we're moving at a reasonable rate here. We'll just get that motion up there so that we're all clear on this motion, which is to appoint a chair for that section. Okay. And so if we can just put in Councillor McMahon in there. Thank you very much, Wendy. That's fantastic. The motion is that Councillor Tim McMahon be appointed as chair in the absence of Councillor Jeff McDonald due to a declarable conflict of interest. And this is in relation to item number 5, matter number 1. Moved by Councillor Melissa. I have a seconder for that. You're happy to accept it. Seconded by Councillor Edwina. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. I'll review the chair then, Councillor Tim.
Colleagues, thank you, Councillor Melissa. We move to item number 5, matter number 1, concerning 1 to 11 Talwood Boulevard, Cotswold Hills. My records state that we should have Councillors O'Shea and McDonald have left the room. Melissa Taylor, Carol Taylor and McMahon have been allowed to stay. So we need to have a motion in relation to item 5, number 1. There we go. That the confidential report on the Planning and Environment Court Appeals and Compensation Claims for July 2024 in relation to matter number 1 be noted by Council. To have a move by Councillor Carol Taylor, seconded by Councillor Trevor. All those in favour? It's passed without dissent. So we will invite Councillors O'Shea and McDonald back in. Oh, we did need to require a division. There was no dissenting in that one. Thank you, colleagues. I'll hand the chair over to Mayor McDonald.
Okay, councillors, we then move to motion number 2, which is that, and Councillor Edwina, you're departing the scene. Good, thank you. Sorry? You know, well, matter 2 is up the top here. Councillors to stay in the room are McMahon and Shine. That's good. Councillor to leave is Councillor Farquhar. So, Madam number 2 is the 46 to 50, 51 and 53 Wirra Street, East Toowoomba. And the motion there before us is that the confidential report on Planning Environment Court Appeals and Compensation Claims for July 2024 in relation to matter number 2, this is matter number 2, be noted by Council. Have someone to move that? Moved by Councillor Tim, seconded by Councillor Gary. Those in favour? Motion's carried unanimously. And therefore we can have Councillor Edwina return. Divisions required. You've got that though, Wendy. Thank you. All right, welcome back, Councillor Edwina. Our next motion is motion number 4, and that is that the confidential report on Planning and Environmental Court Appeals and Compensation Claims for July 2024, with the exception of matters numbered 1 and 2, be noted by council. Councillor Bill, move. Councillor Gary, second. Those in favour? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. We then move to item 8.2, councillors, which is the Water and Waste Committee. There was one item, it was confidential. Is there any requirement to pull that out and discuss it? If not, the motion is that the report of the Water and Waste Committee dated 13th of August 2024 be received and the recommendations therein be adopted. Motions before us. Councillor Bill, moved. Councillor Trevor, second. Those in favour? Motion's carried unanimously. Our next report is, or committee is 8.3, item 8.3, Infrastructure Committee. And there were no items. However, we need to still go through the process. The report of the Infrastructure Committee dated 13th of August be received. Moved by Councillor Carroll, seconded by Councillor Trevor. Those in favour? Motion's carried unanimously. 8.4 then, councillors, is the Environment and Community Committee. And there are 3 confidential items within that. Is there a need, or does anyone wish to pull out any of those items to discuss? If not, the motion before us is that the report on the Environment and Community Committee dated 14th of August 2024 be received and the recommendations therein be adopted. Moved by Councillor James, seconded by Councillor Tim. Those in favour? Motion is carried unanimously. We move then to item 8.5. 8.5, there are a number of items. 8 items, 3 of which are confidential. Are there any items that anyone would like to pull out to discuss further? If not, councillors, the motion there before us is that the report of the Finance and Business Strategy Committee dated 14th of August 2024 be received and recommendations therein be adopted. Moved by Councillor Edwina, seconded by Councillor Tim. Those in favour? Motion's carried unanimously. Economic Development Committee, there was no committee. However, as I've said before, we go through the process that the report of the Economic Development Committee dated 14th of August 2024 be received. Moved by Councillor Edwina, seconded by Councillor James. Those in favour? Motion's carried unanimously. Councillors, we move then to item number 9, which is the monthly performance statement. And welcome to Andrew Wegener. Welcome, Andrew, to you today as the Manager of Financial Services for the monthly financial performance statement. I'll hand directly over to you, Andrew, if you'd like to make some opening remarks, noting that attachment 4, councillors, is a confidential report. If that's required to be questioned, then we'll certainly need to go into confidential for that. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, Mayor. So good morning, councillors. So this morning we're presenting the monthly performance statement as at the 31st of July 2024. This is just to present council with the statements as required by section 204 of the local government regulation. As per previous months, we also include the consolidated financial performance statement, the top 5 capital projects by group, the DRFA summary report, and as the Mayor has indicated, the confidential monthly investment report. So if we'd like to go into that, any discussion around that would have to go into confidential. So this is the first month that we are reporting for the 24-25 period. So you'll notice that as part of the CFPS that there's only very limited variances against the phasing to date. So I'll take the report as read and hand over to questions.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Do appreciate that. Councillors, any questions on the monthly report, noting that this is the first month of reporting for this financial year? If there's no questions, councillors, the motion is there before us. It will be coming up on the screen there. The motion is that the monthly financial performance statement for the period ending 31 July 2024 be received. Is that coming up there, Wendy? There we are. And there we go. That's it. The monthly performance statement for the period ending 31 July 2024 be received. Someone to move? Moved by Councillor Gary, seconder by Councillor Bill. Those in favour? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you, Andrew. We appreciate that. We move then, councillors, to item number 10, which is the Chief Executive Officer's monthly report for this month, the ordinary meeting. I'll hand over to you, Brian.
Well, thank you, Mayor. The report's attached For your reading there's 2 attachments, the Organisational Culture Improvement Initiatives Action Plan Tracker and Completed Actions, and the Employee Relations Report. If there's any questions, happy to take those, or I think Kylie might be here or is probably on her way. I'll take the report as read if there's any questions.
Thank you, Brian. I appreciate that. Are there any questions, councillors, in regard to the Chief Executive Officer's monthly report for August 2024? Councillor Edwina.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Brian. Just in relation to, I've got here, page 11 of 12 of the CEO's report, which is attachment 1, M4, response, no, hang on. Scroll down to, page 11 of 12. M4 just says this action is contingent on the successful implementation of P7 and P8, and as these have not yet been finalised, no action at this time is appropriate. But I just, on P8, on page 6, it is actually closed, and PE7 is quite general as well, so I was just wondering whether we should actually close that one off or not. If it's
Kylie, welcome to you.
Welcome, Kylie.
Now, you've just come on the tail end of that question.
Sorry, I didn't quite make it in time.
No, we're
You're
motoring
right.
through it this morning. So just, Kylie, in relation to page 11 of this report, on M4, it just says response 1st of February 2023, so this is last year. The action's contingent on the successful implementation of P7 and P8. And as these have not yet been finalised, no action at this time is appropriate. But I just note that P7, if we go to page 6, P7 is actually closed. Policy along with other policies are reviewed. Oh, so that's P7. P8, the internal review has been finalised on the 10th of May 2024. The CCC notified council of required changes. Council officers have commenced making the changes required. So I'm just wondering if we're almost ready to close that one off.
Are we talking about P7 or P8?
Well, it was actually M4, which relates to P7 and P8, which is quite confusing.
So M4 is around training staff around those 2 processes or policies. P7 has not yet been closed out, so that's one of those policies. So we can't train people on a policy that hasn't yet been finalised, which is P7.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, no, it just, after reading this, it all was very general and I got a bit confused, so thank you.
Okay, that's clarified that. Thank you. Any other questions, councillors, for CEO's report while Kylie's here? If there's not, there is a motion there for us, which is for item number 10, that the Chief Executive Officer's monthly report be received. Moved by Councillor Kerry, seconded by Councillor Gary. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Kylie. No, that's perfectly fine. We then move, councillors, to item number 12, which is Officer's Report. Item number 11, Mayor's Report, which is tabled for all to see. Councillors, and talks about a variety of advocacy pieces, but also acknowledging the Australian Olympic team and upcoming Paralympic team, the devastation at Drayton, the business case letter for Crestbrook Dam Safety Improvement Project, a letter from Tukarski, our sister city of Tukarski, and advocacy around the Toowoomba Strat Basin Energy Summit, which was held only a week or so ago. Are there any questions in regard to the mayoral report? If not, there's a motion there before us that the Mayor's monthly report be received. Moved by Councillor Edwina, seconded by Councillor James. Those in favour? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. Now we move to item 12.1. 12.1 is the Sister City Council delegation visit to Wanganui, New Zealand for the opening of the Sargent Gallery. The author is Jane. Dr. Nicola, do you know if Jane's attending this? She's not. Would you like to come forward if that's the case, just in case there are some questions? And I guess the report is pretty clear in its intent as to where this has come from, an invitation from Wanganui, from the Mayor, and from a timing perspective seems something worthy of consideration by Council. I'll hand over to you, Dr. Nicola. Thanks.
Thank you very much, and through the Chair. So this report is to seek approval for a Council delegation to visit Wanganui, which is one of our sister cities that we've had a long-standing relationship with, and it's to attend the official opening of the Sargent Gallery and to explore the development and cultural services of the art gallery. So the recommendation before Council is that Council approve the Mayor or his delegate and 2 of the councillors to participate in the visit, and this is aimed to be around 9 of November 2024, and that should any other councillors wish to be included in the delegation, that they be granted approval to attend at their own costs, that is no cost, additional cost to Council. For staff, the recommendation is that 1 council officer, as nominated by the Chief Executive, be approved to accompany the delegation, and that costs for the delegation be reallocated from existing budgets at Budget Review 1 time. Thank you very much. Happy to take any questions.
I guess, Dr. Nicola, you might just talk about the reasons for this in regard to timing with our commitment for a business case with an art gallery here.
Absolutely, thank you, Chair. Yes, so the Sargent Gallery is going to span over 4,500 square kilometres and feature 10 exhibition spaces. So it's relevant to the Toowoomba region as there was a business case to look at a new gallery for our region. So that was announced toward the end of last financial year, so in the budget. So it'd be really important just to get that knowledge exchange to see how in practice developing a new art gallery works and to learn more about the approach that has been taken in Wanganui to get this particular art gallery up and going. I'm happy to take any questions. And we also have Nick here who's in charge of libraries and art galleries who would also have probably more knowledge than I do about such matters.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nicola. I guess the attraction here is that Wanganui is just shy, and Councillor Carroll and Councillor Edwina and Councillor Trevor were at the function when they were here. We're talking about and Councillor Melissa, just shy of a city, just under 50,000 people, and this is a new art gallery that will be open on the 9th of November, a $70 million art gallery, which is a refurbishment of their existing and an extension as well. So obviously there's great interest from our community in regard to the potential new gallery here. Certainly we're committed to a business case, and therefore it's the timing is probably valuable for us to understand learnings from there as well and actually see it in situ. Are there any questions, councillors, in regard to this? Councillor Trevor.
I believe the business case tender process closes today for people wanting to put in an application to do the business case for our new art gallery. Is that correct? I read it somewhere. Anyway, when would that then come to council, or the due diligence or the process, would that come to council for consideration of who gets the job to do the business case, and when will that eventually come to council?
Thank you, Council. I'll hand to my learned colleague, GM of ECS, who'll have knowledge. Will have some knowledge in that regard.
Thanks, GM Nicola. Good morning, Mayor and councillors. The tender process is underway, as you note, and if you're more aware than I that it closes today, I'm sure that's the case. So the assessment process will occur over the next few weeks. Given the value of that, there'd be no need to bring it back to council for endorsement of and approval of the consultant. Will do that at the appropriate financial delegate level. We would report the progress on that to you probably through our group monthly reports at the ordinary meeting.
Thank you, Nick. Councillor Kerry, question?
Yeah, no, thanks, Chair. Just somewhat concerned about overseas trips by councillors in the current economic climate in which we're in, and the perception that it might be given, but tempered by the circumstances here. First of all, the visit recently by the delegation from Wanganui, was that in return for a visit that we had made, or basically are we due to return the favour? Can you remember?
Okay. Jane's here, our International Secretariat, and Jane may have a bit more information on that. Welcome, Jane. Thank you, Nick.
Good morning, councillors. Thank you this morning. We do not have a formal agreement with Wanganui for a set number of visits. We did visit Wanganui in March 2023, and but the visit recently by, excuse me, sorry, I just ran across the road. The Wanganui Mayor and their delegation was the first since 2015. So it's been a long time since Wanganui visited, but we have generated much more activity. We've had an ag delegation visit here as well. But we do have much to learn from Wanganui, and the knowledge sharing process is one of the strongest aspirations that we have with them. And I think we have lots to learn from their redevelopment of their art gallery.
Thank you. Just further, if I might, I notice only one officer is going, and just as a layperson, I just query whether or not more would be gained of value in terms of ultimate construction of our art gallery, new art gallery, if those who are responsible for that design and implementation of it, namely officers of some description, would be more valuable than I hesitate to say mere councillors, but councillors who don't have that sort of specialty. And if the emphasis were on setting more officers and fewer councillors, would that make more sense from that point of view?
Mayor, I might take that one, given that it's related to the development of the business case for the Art Museum. I appreciate the sentiment, Councillor Shine. I think the attendance of one officer is sufficient. There are a number of benchmark galleries, throughout Australasia. There's a couple in Australia that are of particular interest to us, being Shepparton Art Museum being one that's been used as a base reference case for us. So we probably intend to try and send officers to have a look at some of those as well. So they may be sometimes the same officer, they may be different officers to gain some knowledge and understanding of those developments. Also, given advances in communication technologies today, we can have those conversations via email or telephone or video conference and those sorts of things too, without the need to physically visit all of those galleries. So I'm quite satisfied with the attendance of one officer in relation to gathering useful information for us around the development of our business case.
No, thanks. I note you do point out the ability to gain information by modern technology, which raises a question as to whether it's necessary to visit for that purpose. But we're visiting for the other purpose of returning that visit. And my remarks, my feeling about the matter is tempered by the fact that the costs involved here are quite economical in terms of what we have to pay for in Queensland in terms of accommodation and the airfares, etc. So I think it's reasonable, taking everything into account.
Councillor Shine, Councillor Bill and Councillor Carroll, questions for?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Just read with interest in the body of the report on page 3 of 5, and it's in the background information, second paragraph. and right towards the end of that paragraph, it includes a number of criteria that the art gallery includes, but it's the very last sentence that has some worth for me personally, and I think aside from immediate costs that Councillor Shines alluded to, there are some long-term insights to be gained, and possibly for us to understand as a city and a region what are the cornerstone pieces of infrastructure that attract not just state but national and possible international interest. And it says quite clearly here, the Sargent Gallery is an important cornerstone in Wanganui's status as New Zealand's only UNESCO City of Design. Now that is really interesting. I think it's an important component. This is not a cheap capital project. I think it's an important consideration for us as a council moving forward, how we turn our minds to the types of infrastructure and how that facilitates recognition as a region and how that attracts finance into and boosts our economy by visitation to the region, which far surpasses a small upfront investment of a party to go and be sure that we question and understand why they are a UNESCO city. It says the only UNESCO city for the nation. I think it's a pretty important thing for us to consider. Just a comment, Chair. I personally don't have any problems with us investigating that in the life of the project and the impacts that we'll have bringing investment into the region and visitation and tourism. I think it's a pretty worthy pursuit for us to look at.
Thanks, Councillor Bill. Councillor Carroll.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just wanted to mention, I think the visits to our sister cities are very valuable, and I don't know, a lot of people may like getting on computers, but I think the personal touch is very important. I've been twice at my own cost to Wanganui since I've been over on a council visit, and I just wanted to mention some of the things that came out of the last delegation that was here, and I was very interested because I had set up a partnership between the Wanganui Jockey Club, which is the oldest jockey club in New Zealand, and the Toowoomba Turf Club, Clifford Park, and they are the centre of a thoroughbred breeding area running up to Cambridge and Matamata, and there's a lot of scope there for like to like. But one of the things we discussed was mentioned that there was an ag delegation here, which would be very beneficial for our region. I've been over there on another visit where they've got manufacturing areas that fit out coffee clubs in New Zealand and here. So it punches above its weight a bit, Wanganui, to be honest with you. But at the moment, talking to the Mayor, they are reinvigorating. It's a decision that's taken about 12 years to make, but they're reinvigorating their port, which has been actually neglected for some decades. And their view is in some way, once they get it up and going, to actually have a partnership with the Hong Kong flight from here, from Wagner's Airport over to Asia, and I think that could lead to a lot of things. Personal greetings and information sharing sessions, I think, are very important when you're trying to set up relationships and partnerships in industry as well as with council. So I think that whilst I take Councillor Shine's point on no one wants to be wasting money, I've been over there twice and paid for myself both times. I've been over twice with council on a very short trip, but I think that sometimes we have to look at what comes out of that investment for us to take our councils and a delegation over there. And I think that, you know, in this particular case, with the reinvigoration of the port, I think we need, and also the art gallery, and there are other things over there too. They've got a big lake in the middle of the city, actually, and it's really quite lovely, the Victoria Lake. So I think that, I think that the personal visit is much more memorable, and I think it also has far more, I suppose, ability to form relationships and partnerships. So I agree with the recommendation.
Thanks,
Thank
Councillor
you.
Carroll. We've probably got to be careful. We're not getting into a debate here, but Jane, you would like to make comment just on a couple of those things?
Just like to comment that with my experience with the Pardew Staff Exchange, we've had a number of exchanges where we've had in-person exchanges as well as online. The in-person, on-the-ground experience certainly holds a lot more depth. You get a greater understanding of the project and the vastness of that as compared to what you can do online. I think certainly the visit up front will give the officer a greater understanding of the situation, and then follow up with further online opportunities to go deeper into the detail would greatly benefit this project.
Thank you, Jane. Councillors, if there's no further questions on this, the motion is there before us. And in fact, Dr. Nicola read it out before very well. I won't necessarily need to read it again. Moved by Councillor Carroll. We have a second. Seconded by Councillor Bill. Those in favour? I beg your pardon? No. Those in favour? That motion's carried. Thank you. Very good. Thank you, Jane, for rushing over. You've got your breath back now, which is fantastic. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Nicola. Appreciate it. Councillors, and thank you, Nick. You may well be back here shortly, Nick, anyway, for the next one, which is 12.2, which is an amendment to the 2024-25 fees and charges park bookings. Madeline, welcome to you as the author. Sally, welcome to you as the manager, and Nick as GM. Thank you very much for your attendance here today. We do appreciate it. Nick, would you like me to hand directly to Maddie, or what's... Maddie, thank you for your attendance. Do appreciate it, and welcome to you. If you'd like to just work your way through the report, and then we'll go to questions. Thank you.
Good morning, councillors. Today's report is to request council to consider amending council's schedule fees and charges to provide an exemption from park usage fees for identified circumstances that deliver direct benefits to council and the community. In the report, we've outlined certain circumstances that would be considered, but ultimately it will be delegated to the manager of Parks and Rec to make that discretion and apply the exemption to our park user fees. I'll take the report as read, and if anyone has any questions.
Thank you very much, Maddie. Councillor James.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Thanks, Nick, Maddie, Sally. This is a... I certainly agree with it, but I guess the question I ask is, I guess I know obviously when we brought in fees and charges about trying to find the most equitable way across the board. So now that we're sort of looking at making exemptions for these ones, do we feel there's enough rigour around it? You know, because you know, there's a lot of different groups who might think, oh, we probably should be exempt or things like that. Like, is there, totally understand these ones and totally understand the examples that we've got here and how we've landed at this point. But I guess, you know, do we have any concerns, or do we think that it's enough there, you know, that it still achieves what we're trying to achieve when we put in these?
Thank you for the question. Yes, I think so, and we will back it up with a policy that's in draft. So it'll be a branch level procedure, I guess, that will be publicly available, and we'll establish some transparency about how we're making those decisions.
Follow up, James?
Yeah, one more I'll add to it. I think if I can just make a quick comment on this one, Mayor. I think this is a pretty good example. We've sort of heard a few things today around how our officers and working with community and collaborating. This is a really good example of how our staff have done a really good job. So been identified through one of these community groups that sort of was all of a sudden hit with a fee that they'd never had before, the service that they were providing that added so much to great community. So that came through, you know, so Paul Reynolds and through Daryl Bates, then obviously through you guys to work through, okay, what's the best method and understanding what was at stake here and in terms of the groups that we're talking about, being able to collaborate with them, take them on the journey, them understand the process of what it is, and then to be able to land in this position. So I just think it's a really good example of how our officers understand work with our community for a good outcome, and that's what I think this one is. And there might be other questions, but I'm happy to move it as is, Mayor.
I'll make a note of that. We've got Councillor Tim, Councillor Edwina, Councillor Kerry, Councillor Carroll.
Chair, thanks. Good morning, Nick, Matty, Sally. How are you? Thank you for this. I think it's great. I did want to your three sort of main groups. Well, there's four main groups that you're wanting to make it free for: volunteer groups, community groups, memorial and research activities. The community groups. Direct outreach services, and I know the examples given is your Rosies, and so it should be. So my conversation recently with some community groups like Chambers of Commerce, example, who put on a Christmas event for the community in their park, were upset they were paying a park booking fee to put on a Christmas. As an example, just wondering if does that come under community groups doing direct outreach or not?
Would you like to answer that one? Maddie?
Unfortunately, that type of activity would not fall into this criteria. So it's the purpose of the community circumstance is more focused around, you mentioned Rosie's, Toowoomba Outreach. They have really no funding. They don't have their own type of funding. They get support to fund the bond that is associated with the park fee, as well as the insurances. The intention of that is providing quite a valuable service to the community, which is our homeless community.
Yeah. No, thanks for that. Absolutely agree that Rosie St. Vincent's provide a very valuable, and imagine charging them a park booking fee to go and, deliver hot coffee and sandwiches or whatever it is. I'm wondering if the plight of the community groups putting on the Christmas or the Easter or whatever could be accommodated within this at some point, and if I'd need to propose a change to your recommendation to add another group on. But just wondering around that, if I were to put on a event for the community, your Christmas in the park, they're becoming harder and harder to do, and when we charge them, an $800 booking fee or whatever it is, that may contribute to them not having the appetite to host them in the future. So, has that been considered, that scenario, and would that be something I'd have to move as an addition to this or an amendment?
So, yes, we've provided very limited examples where we think that the public benefit of the community group activity is unquestionable. We can consider whether or not we include Christmas and Easter events, but it's a harder line to draw between what is a community celebration and which community celebrations would be included and which ones wouldn't. So if you wanted to make a proposal that it was limited to just Christmas, that puts some sort of an edge around it, I guess. But with the Rosies and Vinnie's examples, it's very, very obvious that they are different, and it has a direct benefit to our most vulnerable sectors of the community. So it's easy as a decision maker, I guess, to know what's in and what's out in that space. A little bit more difficult when we start talking about general community celebrations. Happy to consider it though.
Yeah,
maybe you think through that, Councillor Tim. There's a few questions that'll come through. Might I suggest that you think about adding an additional one that might be directly into that to help officers. When you think of the activities you're talking about, it may be that only event that many of our vulnerable in community, at the cost of living pressures, can attend for Christmas. So it might actually be a community building event that council supports that may well be captured in another. And I'll leave that in your mind to think through. Councillor Edwina.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Sally. I guess my question follows on from Councillor Tim's. I've been hearing the similar feedback from the regions. Some towns like Pittsworth, for example, have moved some of their events around Christmas to the showgrounds because we're charging in our parks versus the showgrounds being for free. And I guess following on from Councillor Tim, if it's an event for the whole community that they're going to benefit from that's free, I do think that we should consider that. Obviously, the wording and everything else has to be quite tight for your officers to make sure what is and isn't. You don't want to open it up to everything. But my other point and thoughts too, following on from Joe Cap this morning, talking about policy changes and making it easier for not-for-profit services and just to make sure that not-for-profits are considered in this as well, please. And again, I don't know. There are some not-for-profits that are, well, most of them are, all of them providing good services to the community at different levels and well, as Councillor Carroll's just commenting, some are potentially wealthier than others, but it is, just, again, making it easy for the community to enjoy our parks. That was my comment, probably more than anything, but to include Christmas as well, please.
Okay, Councillor Kerry and then Councillor Carroll.
Yeah, no, thanks, Chair. I think Councillor Tim and Edwina have covered the areas that I was thinking about, particularly in relation to Pittsworth. That was also an issue of traffic management charges, which seemed extraordinary to my mind, but out of this, not concerned with this area here. I'm just amazed. I presume Rosie's Toowoomba Homeless and Outreach's Vincent de Paul are not already charged. Do we actually charge them?
Previously, they haven't been charged. So when they applied for their annual permit in the 24-25 year, that's what initiated this collaboration with CDFT and to talk through this exemption to apply because of the costs associated with.
The status quo will remain as a result of this today. Okay. No, thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for the work you do.
Councillor Carroll.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And it's not just Pittsworth. I mean, I can remember when the change came for public liability that there was a Christmas carnival in Cambodia and all over the place, and those were lost and they've never come back. And that's not council's fault. That was the public liability. But I just wanted to ask about, I guess that what's there is probably just an example if something came up and that you would go through the process. Just thinking about what we've got there with returned soldiers, the Navy, or that's not mentioned there, we've got the Air Force, but that would be covered as well, and War Widows Association and War Animal Association. Thank you very much. So I think it's probably just we've mentioned the core. And so thank you very much for bringing this to us. I think it's really tremendous that we're recognising that there's great public benefit with those organisations. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Carroll. Do appreciate it. Are there any other Councillor Trevor and then Councillor Bill?
Just a question. What cost savings will be for these people who don't pay? What cost savings will they save?
So there's two exemptions that we're applying. So there's the park usage one, that's a lower cost. They're the one-off events, so your Anzac Memorial Services, the research groups, that's a low impact. A bond will still apply, which could be between $200 and $525, but the fee would be around that $79 per event would be what we would be exempting on a case-by-case basis. For the community services, so Rosie's and, sorry, not Rosie's, but Toowoomba Outreach, they actually, we're exempting the building fee that's associated with them because they're weekly. It's around $5,000 that they would be charged if this exemption wasn't supported.
Okay. Just as a question, there's a company in town that does an Easter egg hunt. Where do they sit on the timeline of this? Are they in or are they out?
They're out of this example. So yes, that's a community fundraising event, but they're a commercial entity undertaking that activity, so a fee would still be applied.
Okay, we've got a couple more. Councillor Bill.
Yeah, a couple of questions, if I may, Chair. I think I've interpreted the officers right here. The examples you've given quite clearly, I think you've stated there is no ability for these organisations that Rosie's was an example given. They don't generate income from their event, so to speak, if you could call it an event. They don't have an ability to generate income from memberships. So for me, I think the question for all of us to consider is the other such organisations, whilst they might be not-for-profit, some of them, the nature of events that I attend, and some of which have been mentioned, there is an ability to generate income to pay for park fees, and that's through their normal membership, yearly membership and subscriptions, and other ways they generate income as a membership-based community organisation, or they charge for soft drinks and pies and entry fees and this and that. And so I think am I interpreting this right? I think we're talking about two entirely different ends of the spectrum here. But then I'd also like a comment from the officer as well as to the magnitude of an event where we have to rehabilitate a facility over and above the normal operating costs. Because, I mean, it's got to be a user pay, hasn't it? Thanks.
Correct. So that was our intention of this report, is you're on the right, exactly, that these groups that we've mentioned here don't necessarily have that ability to generate that income through the event. They're providing a service generally free of charge. Some of these larger scale events can have a massive impact on our parks. It could potentially warrant our on-call officers going to support them to run the event, to ensure that all of our services are working and operating for their event, making sure the space is mowed and all of that things. They do incur operational expenses on council to ensure that the facility is at a state to ensure the event can go and function.
Yeah, thanks. No, I just really support Councillor James' comments around the officer's recommendation, and it's a good outcome that you've arrived at. You know, for us to think any different, I guess the VW Club might throw a community event, but we generate income through membership and other fundraisers and other things that we do. So I don't think ethically, I don't think we as an organisation would assume the same status as a Rosie's, really.
Thanks, Councillor Bill. Councillor Edwina, back to you, and then I'll get Councillor Tim.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, I did have another point to cover off. I did it before, so something coming back to me. But I think just to be mindful, councillors too, in places and parks like Donville Place, for example, they don't have toilets, tables, chairs, and we are pricing them similarly to some of our other venues like halls, that sort of thing. So it's just to be mindful that I want to make sure that, yes, our costs are covered, absolutely. You know, we need to mow, we need to make sure that it's accessible, but at the same time, it is a community venue, location, and if something's free of charge for the whole of the community to enjoy, I just think we need to consider that. And that's my comment. Thank you.
Thanks. Councillor Tim, back to you.
Chair, thanks very much. Can I just ask a question? I absolutely think the criteria you've got in there are necessary, and I thank you for bringing this report, and some amazing people in the community that would benefit from this as written. If I was a community chamber in a regional town, Yarraman, Millmerran, etc., and I wanted to put on my one event, which is an open community Christmas in the park, at present, would I be charged the non-commercial rate of 40% or the commercial rate?
You would be charged the 40% non-commercial rate as long as you met the criteria for a not-for-profit group.
Sure. So may I dig a little bit more? Just to ask you a question. 40% of what? Of how much do we usually talk? And I know there's so many broad things, but is it a doable fee?
So our fees and charges are set up as a depending on the area that they occupy. The commercial rate is 100% based out in the fees and charges register, and then the non-commercial rate is 40% of that 100% rate. So depending on the activity that the group is undertaking, it would depend on what scale they fall in. Majority of our that we've seen probably fall into that 200 to 1,000 metre square area rate for park usage, or greater than 1,000 would be the two main criteria they fall into, but 40% would apply. So there's a 60% discount applied to a not-for-profit group to undertake an activity in our park.
Yeah, thanks for that. Chair, I don't have any further questions. Thanks.
No further questions. Anyone else have any further questions? So, Councillor James, you move the officer's recommendation. Councillor Tim second that. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Councillors, before we move to item number 13, thank you, Matty. Thank you, Sally. Thank you, Nick. I've got a call for an adjournment just for 10 minutes from someone. Happy to move. Councillor Trevor, Councillor Carroll. Those in favour? Motion's carried. Thank you. 10 minutes. Adjourn at 25 to 11. We got everyone, haven't we? No, Bill's the only one. We're live streaming. Thank you. Councillors, we'll resume the meeting. Thank you very much, councillors. Resume the meeting and we move to item number 13. Item number 13 is matters for which notice has been given, and there is an item number 13.1, and 13.1 is process for calling in of development applications for council's consideration. Councillor Shine, this was a matter which you brought forward as a matter of notice. I'm happy to hand over to you for that motion, and you can just take it from there. We'll go to questions.
Yeah, no, thanks, Chair. I'm happy to, of course, to move that motion, and will no doubt require a seconder at this stage of proceedings.
So the motion before you, councillors, is that forthwith a workshop for councillors be arranged to enable consideration of past, present and possible alternative practices in the councillors' examination of calling in of development applications of interest with a view to adopting practices best suited for efficient and effective determination. Councillor Shine, you're moving that?
Yes, I am, Chair.
I'll need to get a seconder to get it on the table. Second by Councillor Edwina. You've moved in second. It's now on the table. Councillor Bill, you had a question?
Chair, I just wonder whether there is a need for this motion at all, considering recent correspondence from officers to councillors. I think we've already agreed for a workshop to take place. I think there's been some suggestion as to this happening. So I just wonder what the need for this motion is. I'm happy to also expand on some reasons where I think it probably it appears to take a predisposed position on what the workshop should look like or the outcomes that we should be looking for. So I just wonder.
Okay. So the question there is, I guess from a timing perspective, Councillor Shine, you've brought this forward. Is this before the officers have said we will have a workshop, or is this post that?
Yeah, the timing is that this arose during the last special meeting, I think on the 7th of August. And at the conclusion of that meeting, I expressed my view that perhaps we should be looking at a more efficient way of dealing with applications, particularly where, for example, in that instance, there was no debate and very few questions raised, notwithstanding the fact that the officers had to prepare a report, which we know costs a fair amount of money to do that, and time and effort, and they're understaffed. And if we could have a system whereby councillors could freely inquire into applications, but at an early stage, perhaps in a more informal way, to satisfy their queries, that might be a good way of addressing the matters more efficiently. So I made those comments at that time. Subsequently, there was an email from the General Manager, as I recall it, suggesting a workshop be arranged whereby councillors could look into this matter more or less along the lines of the motion that I've proposed. From my point of view, I think it's important that we give a signal to the community that we're aware that things might be able to be done better, and the most proper way of doing that is for councillors to, if they are like mine, to pass a motion to the effect of what I've proposed.
So there is a motion there. Councillor Shine, it's been seconded by Councillor Edwina. We've got that on there. Questions, councillors? Councillor Bill has raised his thoughts that this may well not be required now that we've indicated that. I guess, Councillor Shine, you're still to keep moving forward, and we've got a seconder. Councillor, is there any more questions or comments? Councillor Melissa.
Thanks, Chair. I too, when I read this, did wonder because the officers have already communicated that with us. So to me, this is a very null and void motion and not necessary to take up any more time in the ordinary meeting today. We've already got acknowledgement that this is going to happen.
Okay, that may be the case. I've got a mover and a seconder, and the mover is quite comfortable to keep moving forward with this. Councillor Carroll?
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and I actually agree with that. It's not going to be a public workshop, it'll be a workshop, so they'll both be exactly the same, and I see no reason to have a double up. We've already been committed with a workshop, and I think that, it's not as if it's going to be a public workshop, this one, so they'll be exactly the same, and we've already got one scheduled, it appears.
Right. So keeping it quite clear here, no one so far has spoke against this motion. We have a motion to do exactly what we've said we've had. So I'm happy to go to debate if there's no other questions. No other questions or comments? Councillor Bill?
Given that we haven't had the opportunity to actually sit down collectively as a boardroom and with the planning people and do a genuine workshop on this. So, and I don't quite know how to say this, but we probably need to err with a little bit of caution here because there's been some comments in the public forum that have been expressed from a couple of different channels and sources that on the basis of what the information I have, I'm of a personal opinion that there's some quite unfounded claims, and I think we need to be careful of where that may go in the future, and making some presumptions about and moving a motion. I think we're best. Wouldn't it be prudent for us to go along the lines of what already two other colleagues have stated, and let's have a genuine sit-down discussion and workshop. I'm all for continuous evolution on how we provide service, absolutely. But I think we just need to be a little bit cautious here at this point, given what's transpired of recent times.
Councillor Cole, I'm just looking at this motion, and it's been moved and seconded. I get that. I just wonder your words before around predetermined view, potentially within this motion, and Bailey is in the gallery, and I'll refer to him if we need to. From my reading of this motion, the words following interest says, with a view to adopting practices best suited for efficient and effective determination. Is that what you feel is a predetermined view?
Oh, look, the whole. Let me get to the. Oh, sorry, bear with me. I'm on the wrong item before the break. Excuse me. The whole reasons for the motion caused me a great deal of concern around claims about time taken and that, and I don't think this is the forum to actually have a discussion about some of the facts and statistics. Some have been presented to us within the confines of a confidential discussion at this point. Without debating now, but I absolutely could not support this motion, which appears to have a predisposed position and setting the terms of reference too prescriptively for the workshop in which we are going to do anyway. So I'd rather go to a workshop, which we've already had, as been more than ably said, and we've decided on, and then, if need be, we come back with a motion or a policy or a framework or guideline on how we go about this in the future. That's the normal process, isn't it?
So I guess what this is doing in my mind is that it's solidifying the fact that we are having a workshop as a council decision. That's what it seems to me. Now, we will go into debate if required. Councillor Shine, did you want to make just comment quickly before we
it was asserted that a workshop has been arranged. It hasn't been. I've just confirmed that with the General Manager. No workshop has been arranged. It's been suggested but not arranged. So this would put it into play.
Okay.
Then may I flag an alternate motion if that's the case, and it's much less prescriptive, and the reason is the reason why all of us councillors sit around the table, and it simply says, without the level of prescription there, that a workshop for councillors be arranged to consider the process for calling in development applications, full stop. And the reason is in the interests of the public.
We might just get that wording. So this is a foreshadowed motion, or it's close enough to an alternate motion because it's still a workshop, but we'd need the mover and the seconder to agree to that. So can you just go through that again, please, Councillor Carl?
That a workshop for councillors be arranged to consider the process for calling in a development or calling in of development applications, or to consider. We've already got a process, so I'm a bit at odds there. There is already a process that exists, and it's quite clear, and the guidelines around that are quite clear. So I'm open to some suggestion there, but to consider or further consider the process for calling in would be.
Further consider the existing process.
Yeah, the existing process for calling in development applications. And the reasons are quite clear. The reason why we sit around this table is not specifically for one sector or for specific interests. It is about the public interest. And that's why I said I'm all for constant evolution of the service delivery we provide.
So, Councillor Carl, it may well be a motion that the mover and seconder might consider, that a workshop, if it's not, then it'd be a foreshadowed motion which could be decided after if the initial one is not successful, that a workshop for councils be arranged to further consider the existing process for calling in of development applications. That's what you've said. Okay, so that's an alternate recommendation. If people see that as an alternate recommendation, the mover and seconder, does it achieve the same of what you're doing, or what you?
Well, the proposed motion has been given notice. It's there, and I see no reason to alter what has already been proposed.
Well, therefore, it's a foreshadowed motion if you feel it's different enough to be separate from what you've suggested. Therefore, there's a motion before us. Do we need to go into debate? Councillor Shine, you'd like to speak first. We're going to debate. Councillor Shine as the mover.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. The proposed motion has been put up there and read out, and the reasons for the motion as stated were these: that public concern has been raised recently as to the time taken and paucity of reasons given for the calling in of development applications. It is desirable that Council adopts the most efficient method of consideration with respect to these matters, particularly having regard to the cost to the Council and applicants, time taken, and obviously the resources utilised involved in the preparation of reports consequent upon callings in. I've already mentioned earlier in the earlier discussions the issue of cost, but could I just remind councillors that we are in a serious housing crisis at the moment. It's important that we acknowledge that that is the case, and it's important that we adopt procedures that will address that crisis in a very timely manner. What brought this to a head was the application that was dealt with at the last special meeting. The time taken between the calling in and the hearing of the special meeting was about 8 months. There are various reasons for that, and as it turned out, it didn't matter, it would appear, to the developer, who wasn't anticipating any earlier determination. But in the normal course, a period of 8 months during this period of crisis, a housing crisis, is, in my view, unacceptable. And if we can adopt a procedures whereby, in instances like the last one, where there was no debate, where there was no intense questioning and very few questions about the matter, that could have been satisfied to the satisfaction of the councillors who asked them at the time of the initial examination, if that procedure had been available. This is the sort of outcome that I'm looking for, a refining of the process so that an earlier consideration can be given, and the development applications, particularly for residential, and this is what we're referring to here as residential applications, are dealt with expeditiously.
Thanks, Councillor Sean. Speaker against the motion, Councillor Bill.
Thanks, Chair. I've already made some of the comments about why I can't support this motion. It's not that I don't support the notion of actually exploring and continually exploring better ways of doing things to get the best outcomes. However, there are some implicit claims within which I will not go into on the basis of some confidential discussion. And I think there's some questionable claims that have been made in the public realm that there may play out in the course of time as to the validity of those. One of which Councillor Shines mentioned. As I've said, I think it's overly prescriptive. It's, in my view, preemptive of the terms of reference or the guidelines in which we will be considering the parameters of a workshop, this workshop. I think there's much more, and we've been reminded by Council Solicitor that councillors have discretion, ultimate discretion, around the register of delegations and call-ins and what we want to discuss or not discuss, and councillors don't have to provide reasons other than being cognisant of the fact that we represent the interests of the public, and I stress the broader public. So I think we are kidding ourselves if we're going to go into a workshop and we've already got a prescriptive parameter set ahead of us, and that's why I've flagged that alternate motion. Absolutely, it is prudent for any council, and particularly a new council with new councillors, to go and re-examine the process that already exists, and we may come up with other parameters or suggestions in that process, but I'm not going to be preemptive about what I think it is around costs or time taken or resources. I might remind councillors too, in last week's committee meeting, one of the councillors asked around in the ops plan whether there were external factors or whether it was in fact, quote, in this room where there were hold-ups in relation to the topic we're talking about. The officer's comment, quote, "We haven't had any deemed approvals of matters going over time because of call-ins." So I think we need to go into this with an open mind, and I state very, very strongly, I think this sets us on a train track that doesn't let us explore this with an open mind and to thoroughly examine what already exists. So I would say to councillors, please err with caution, as there are some things that will play out based on public statements. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Carl. Speaker 4, Councillor Gary.
I personally don't see anything in there that preempts anything. You know, it talks about past and present. You got to look at the past to see what you want to change, and the only other words there are efficient and effective. I don't see any what it preempts anything myself. That's how it's that much different to one bill's putting up. But I'm for supporting what Kerry's put up.
Councillor Gary. Speaker against. Councillor Carroll.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and I'm not totally against it, but I just want to comment. I think it is a little bit misleading. Comment in the public space has been very misleading, and as to the existing process, councils put that in place before they had a voice over any planning matters in the early days of this amalgamated council. And the time that's been mentioned for DAs to come to council has been very misleading. The time mentioned is 8 months. It's totally incorrect, and councillors are very aware that it is totally incorrect. The community expects council to act in the best interests of the entire community, and that would be our entire community, which is developers and ordinary members of the community. And the reason that these matters were put in place, I'm well in favour of going over them, because it has been some time since we've done it, but not with a view to what we want to achieve there. Adopting best suited for efficient and effective determination may not well be what's seen as the community as best in the interests of the whole community. So I think we should, I do agree with Councillor Bill, we should go into a workshop looking at it with fresh eyes, but not with an outcome in mind. That would be what we'd want, but we would need to add those words that's in the best interests of our whole community. There is a housing crisis at the moment. This particular developer was not ready to proceed in any case and is very happy with the outcome that they had. So I really struggle to understand what the urgency around this is. We've already said we need to look at it, and I think that we just do need to have a workshop on it with no inhibitions in place, and find the best way for our entire community, and that includes our developers and our applicants. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Carroll. Speaker in favour, Councillor Edwina.
Thank you, Chair. Look, I think we all agree that the process itself, Councillor Bill's put forward a motion to look at the process. This is looking at the process. But I too have had public concerns raised, and I think, again, as Councillor Gardner also commented, this is looking at best practices and efficiency based not only on time, cost of lawyers, council officers and the proponent. And we do know it doesn't take 8 months, it takes 6 to 8 weeks for an in-depth report to come to council based on our timeframes. Our teams have to do the work, and then based on getting the board papers together into the system, we know it takes about 6 to 8 weeks. That's how our system works. I want to make sure that we do a workshop. I want to make sure it happens, and to do things better, removing whatever obstacles we have in our way, and to make sure that our processes and systems are the best possible for our community. Absolutely call them in if they're contentious. I totally agree with that. or if they're really high concerns from the public and a huge amount of public interest surrounding something, definitely bring it in. But I do believe our existing process could be tweaked. I don't think that there's anything prescriptive in this motion, considering we're just looking at considering the existing process. I just think we need to look at transparency for the community and also risk reduction, and honestly, just making things better. And another feedback from the UDIA, just looking at the processes involved. That's also an industry body, but they have concerns. Our community have concerns, and I do think that I'd like to second the motion.
Thanks, Councillor Edwina. Speaker against the motion? Councillor Melissa.
Thanks, Chair. I'm actually not debating against the sentiment of this motion, because we all agree that when it comes to the betterment of community and the betterment of policy, we want to ensure that we have the best policy. But I just think that this motion isn't the best motion to encourage that. The comments in the motion and the reasons for the motion are very misleading. The public concern has been raised. I don't think that's 100% correct. I am a strong advocate for streamlining processes and for policy for the betterment of our entire community. And I think this motion is overly prescriptive. I think it's subjective, particularly with the phrase, with a view to adopting practices best suited for efficient and effective determination. I think keep the motion simple, and the foreshadowed motion encapsulates everything that we need to do without becoming too subjective and too prescriptive and putting us into a box. I think the foreshadowed motion is all that is required.
Thanks, Councillor Melissa. Speaker in favour of the motion? Councillor Trevor.
I see nothing wrong with the motion, as in the fact that it's a workshop. You're either going to get the information you require to either stop the development, whatever it is being called in, or you'll get enough evidence at that workshop to say, hey, we need to call it in. So there's no issues in my regard with this motion going forward, because the choice is still there for councillors to call in a development, with whether it's just councillors or public pressure or whatever, or community sentiment around that calling in. So I've got no issues with the motion as it stands.
Thanks, Councillor Trevor. Any other speaker against the motion? Okay, Councillor Kerry, happy for you to have the opportunity to sum up.
Yeah, no, thanks, Chair. Look, Chair, I rely on the wording of the motion. It's very similar, I agree, to the proposed alternative motion without the words efficient and effective. I just find it amazing that we, as a board of directors of this organisation, would be hesitant about aspiring to have effective and efficient procedures. And to argue against it is hard to understand. And I'm just bewildered by that. I think by leaving it as is, it does send the message out to the public that we're serious about making improvements where improvements are necessary. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Sean. We've had everyone's had their say. We've had a debate. We've had a mover of Councillor Kerry, second of Councillor Edwina. Let's go to vote. Those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now, we want to call division. Those against? And we'll call the division. So there's 7. So the against, Councillor Melissa, Councillor Carroll, Councillor Bill. You've got that special thing where you press the buttons on the screen, haven't you, Deanne? Yeah. Just to record that so we know what we got. Okay, ultimately then we'll look forward to, based on that, a workshop coming up in the not too distant future to look at all of those things for planning. So are you happy then to? Oh, here we go. You've got the red and the green buttons there. Is that coming up on the screen? Look at that. Well done. There you go. Thank you. That's the first time I think I've seen that up on the screen. So it's been a great day. Thanks, Wendy. Thanks, Deanne. Appreciate it. Councillors, we move then to item number 14, which is any other business council determines by resolution to be included in the agenda. Is there any other general business, councillors? No other general business? Okay, then we move to item 15, which is the closing of the meeting. The closing of the meeting is in relation to industrial matters affecting employees, matters that may directly affect the health and safety of an individual or a group of individuals, and legal advice, and therefore it is recommended that the meeting be closed to the public in accordance with sections 254J3B, industrial matters affecting employees, E, legal advice obtained by the local government or legal proceedings involving the local government, including, for example, legal proceedings that may be taken by or against the local government, and F, matters that may directly affect the health and safety of individual or a group of individuals of local government regulation. Okay, so the motion then is that the meeting be closed to the public in accordance with section 254J3 of Local Government Regulation 2012 to consider the following items, which is the confidential Chief Executive monthly report. Move to close the meeting. That's what that means. Thank you, Councillor James. Seconder. Councillor Trevor, those in favour? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you, those in the gallery. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. We'll go offline and once Thank you and welcome back for all of those watching online, and thank you for your attendance here today for our August ordinary meeting. We move to the motion for item 16.1, which was the confidential Chief Executive Officer's monthly report. The motion is simply that Council note the Chief Executive Officer's advice. Someone moved by Councillor Carroll, seconded by Councillor Trevor. Those in favour? Motion's carried unanimously. Move then, councillors, to group reports, and the first group report is the Planning and Development Group Report, and invite Dr Nicola to come forward as the GM of Planning and Development to present her monthly report, and then we'll go to any questions that councillors may have. Thanks, Dr Nicola.
Good morning again, councillors. I almost said good afternoon, but it's not quite. Goodness, we're whipping through it. Look, it's been a very, very busy month of July, so you'll see quite a fulsome report, and I'm happy to open up to any questions that councillors may have.
Thanks, Dr Nicola. So, councillors, this is item 17.1 in the board report, board book, and we have questions available for councillors if you do have any for the GM. Councillor Kerry.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Thanks, GM. If I find it under heading Team Toowoomba. Yeah, Team Toowoomba. There was a exhibition partner or exhibition, I take it, to for us to be represented at the Regions Rising National Summit in Canberra on the 14th and 15th of August. Just wondering if you could tell us a little bit about that, and if you're aware of it at this stage, and who went and what relevant outcomes there might be for us.
Thank you very much, Councillor, and that's a great question. So I was approached by the Chamber of Commerce around joining in with TSB and QTC as part of Team Toowoomba. So there were effectively stalls set up for different regions to exhibit the offerings that they had at the Regions Rising National Summit. There were also meetings taking place afterwards, whether it was with ministers, shadow ministers, special interest groups, etc. So it was an opportunity for Toowoomba to be represented. I was unable to attend, but the rest of Team Toowoomba took some of our material with them, and certainly we were involved in media and comms, helped draft the flyers and those types of things. So it was just an opportunity to get the Toowoomba region and some of our industry and opportunity out there and be showcased with our partners who were attending as well. So we literally piggybacked on the work of those partners who were already attending.
Thank you.
Thanks. Councillor Shine, follow up?
If I might, no, a different one if I might. Just under the heading planning, it lists the material changes of uses and the reconfiguring of lots applications, and in the former it said 65% were completed within the statutory timeframes, and the latter 56% within the statutory timeframes. So just wondering what the significance of the timeframes are, and are there any consequences for not completing within those timeframes?
Thank you, Councillor. So for some of the applications, so there are very tight statutory timeframes. So the team work to those tight statutory timeframes. That's just part of the way life is within planning and development. We did have a lot of junior planners and engineers being trained, so we're very excited that we've got new staff there, and really it is taking a little bit of extra time to get them accustomed to the system, and a lot of them are graduates as well. So the delay, or the fact that we haven't met those KPIs was really just around training and facilitating induction and those types of things for the team. We've also had some issues in terms of for engineering, for development planning area, so that's probably more highly staffed than ever. in a period over the past few years. And for development engineering, we're moving some additional vacant resources into there, because some of the applications, for example, op works, etc., take an enormous amount of technical time and skill, and also might involve lots of site visits. And where there are complications with any particular development, just say there have to be repeated site visits, etc., or if we have to recheck bill of quantities, that all adds to the time, but it does mean a delay. The flow-on effects are that there are delays to subsequent applications. But I would expect that this would improve now in terms of the KPIs, because the new members of the team have taken to it like a duck to water, and we're really impressed with how they're growing into their new roles here at council.
No, thank you. I certainly didn't mean to infer that people in planning are not doing their utmost and doing a great job, bearing in mind the shortage of staff and the pressures that you're under. But the way I read it was that it wasn't so much not meeting a KPI, but meeting a statutory framework, a regulatory obligation. And any consequences of not being able to do that, any legal consequences, if you like.
Thank you, councillor. So for some things, we have what's called deemed approvals or deemed refusals. We're fortunate; we have good relationships with most of the applicants, and they will tend to work with us. So where we see there's going to be delay, whether it's resources, staffing or other things, we'll generally touch base with them early in the piece, and in general they'll agree to an extension of timeframes. So it's otherwise there would be consequences. So we value the relationship that we have with applicants, and it certainly assists us if we can't meet a time frame and they agree to an extension. For us, the main impact really is around reputational damage to council. We're really committed to better customer service, and so when there are delays in processing applications, doing assessments, etc., we're very mindful to working with all applicants. It could be a large developer, it could be a mum or a dad, or any person sort of subdividing just a one into two. We're very mindful to keep them informed as best we can and communicate, and because that tends to mitigate any of the potential consequences.
Right, Councillor Kerry, Councillor Gary, then Councillor Bill and Councillor Edwina. Can you just turn your microphone on, please, Gary, just from up?
I notice we have a total of 3.308 for infrastructure charges. Do we record charges from developers for trunk infrastructure of that month also?
Thank you, councillor. That's a good question. So we do record how much the infrastructure charges notice, noting that it's not uncommon that a significant proportion of that is never paid because developments don't go ahead. We don't currently record trunk, so we might condition things as trunk. We're doing some work behind the scenes just to find out how much trunk we have conditioned, and to look across what the liabilities might be, when we might expect those to be delivered, and those types of things. So we don't currently capture that information.
Because you would have an idea of what trunk infrastructures you're going to get charged by the amount of projects once they've started, I'd imagine.
Thank you.
They take 12 months, some of these subdivisions, and some of them we've probably got liabilities of.
Thank you. So at the moment, we are changing the system so that we're more efficient and effective at capturing, and that includes moving towards entering into infrastructure agreements very early on in the piece, so we actively capture exactly what is trunk and what's not trunk. So at the moment we condition trunk in the development applications, and that places a an onus on the developer to be compliant to deliver that trunk for us, and ordinarily they will carry that cost, which is why behind the scenes we're working at doing things like being really clear about the timing of refunds in our infrastructure charges resolution. So we're going to be introducing some clauses there, capturing the trunk at the time it's conditioned so that we can provide an account to council as to what's being delivered and by whom and how much it might cost. And a number of other initiatives, but that's sort of part of a body of work that we're looking at. So we're looking at the historical data, but we'll also, with our new infrastructure plan, that will is coming about as part of the planning scheme, we'll look to have systems in place so that that information can be readily available at all times. And it will help even with things like capital works program. If we've conditioned a developer to deliver a particular road for us, we can make sure there's no double up and with council thinking it's building it itself, those types of things.
Okay, a couple more questions. Councillor Bill and then Councillor Edwina and Councillor Trevor.
Yeah, something that pricked my attention there, Councillor Kerry stated staff shortages. Can you actually give us a status quo on, because a while back, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure I heard you say that you had a full complement of staff.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, just I'm interested.
Thank you, Councillor Bill. So we are the smallest portfolio. What we've done to make sure that the planning team and the engineering team, so both are heavily involved in, for the planning team, they are only doing development assessment. However, we've got planners in 3 of my 4 branches and they're all involved in development assessment. And then we also have the engineering team and their support who are also involved in development assessment. And across council, there are networks to make sure that there were enough staff because of those statutory timeframes, and it's particularly for engineering because they're also doing site visits and that type of thing. I did move some vacant staff into planning and engineering. For planning now, and also with the cultural change, we do have really great applicants that apply. If we've only got 1 role and we've got 3 applicants that are merit listed, we'll merit list the other 2, and if a role comes up, we're able to put them in. So I've got two areas that are full in terms of the established FTE, reasonably full, I should say, which is planning and engineering. I'm moving some of the vacancies across to engineering to assist with infrastructure agreements and other issues that have been identified in customer feedback. But then ultimately, we have the amount of staff that we have under establishment. With the planning branch at the moment, there has been a declining trend line in development assessments, so they're at or above the staff that they would usually have. And for development engineering, I recognise that they do need more staff, and we've taken steps with those. We've repurposed some vacant roles.
Yeah, I'm just interested. I mean, so essentially you've got you're pretty well there on numbers. Probably onward and upward from here, because you just said that there's some new people in the role and it takes time to bed them in and that, but that can only that'll improve the outcomes and output and of the section will obviously improve as those people find their feet.
Thank you, councillor. So probably our only area, the key area of concern to me is the toil hours for the development of infrastructure and growth, so the engineers. So ideally, any vacancies I have, I move in there because their toil hours are high, and I'm very cognizant of that fact. So that's sort of the way that I repurpose. It's often based on not merely meeting, say, KPIs or something like that. I really have to look at toil hours.
Yeah, one final comment, Chair.
All right, Councillor.
Excellent. That's what a manager would... that would be a normal expectation, and I don't say that lightly. I've been in the role myself. And We used to call it resource rebalance. It was a crude term that was coined back in ancient history.
Good. Thank you. Councillor Edwina and Councillor Trevor.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Dr. Nicola. Yeah, just following on from Councillor Bill's comments there, I do also think, looking at rebalancing, and this is a greater chat for the organisation of looking at making sure that if we have all of these applications lined up with a housing crisis, that we have enough resources to manage all of that. But just looking at the economic development part of your report, just like to note that firstly, the ID consulting report that you presented to us with the economic health check, I thought that was great, really good information and real value for our organisation. Just wondering if we can perhaps share that information in the later September meetings, if that's possible.
Thank you very much, Councillor Edwina. It's a fantastic report and it really provides a lot of guidance for planning and development, tourism, all sorts of areas across council in terms of who we are, which industries are lagging, which ones should we be taking advantage of and the like. So thank you for that comment and I'll take that on notice.
Thank you. And secondly, viewers met yesterday actually with our Darling Downs Regional Alliance in Pittsworth, which was great. And I note that we're now you've had quite success with the, building industry with your quarterly forums and now creating and setting one up for businesses. So thank the Darling Downs Regional Alliance for joining us and partnering with that, and look forward to these quarterly forums commencing. Do you know approximately when we're looking at our first one starting?
Thank you, Councillor Edwina, and through the chair. So we met with the Darling Downs Regional Alliance yesterday. We're really excited that they're partnering with us on these quarterly forums for regional businesses. It is a free forum, a lot like the industry forum, so anyone can attend. You don't need to be a member of a particular Chamber of Commerce or anything else. It's free. It'll be open to the public and a lot like a town hall style meeting, like our industry forum. And it's a chance for us to have that direct contact with attendees to say the changes that we're doing to make things easier for regional business. And it's a chance for us also to hear what concerns they may have or give us their views on any opportunities. So I've left it to the Darling Downs Regional Alliance to come up with a venue. So these won't be merely in Toowoomba. We'll be roving around the place. I would say the first one will be in October, and I'll just wait to hear from the Alliance as to where they think the first location will be. So as soon as I know that, we'll make that information public and we'll issue an alert just so we can have as many people there on the first event. It is likely to be something that would start after 5 p.m. because it is aimed at business and we do want businesses to be able to attend in the different areas.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. It might be, just on that, it might be worth your while chatting with the community development team because there is a councillor engagement set to happen. It might even be John Darien, I think, actually, in October as well. So separate or together. And I'm noting that not only that, but we have the planning scheme. There'll be a lot of consultation that will take place over the next 6 to 12 months. So there's a bit on that will need support from people like the Chambers and TISB and others.
Thank you. And the community development team, so there was a member of staff there yesterday, so they're really excited to be involved as well. So thank you to that team.
Very good. Councillor Trevor?
Architecture and heritage, very important for Toowoomba and Toowoomba region. You mentioned there the architecture and heritage team have been reviewing key services. What is that? Is it a positive or a negative for architecture and heritage?
Thank you very much. Now, we only bring good news, so it's good news. So it's looking at, and it's really part of that, what services do we offer? What's our core business? What can we offer? So they're looking at things like, can we offer something like a heritage service or an architect service? Can we offer it in a way that's meaningful in which case, how should we do that? So Jade and the team are looking at the different, so they also do the internal referrals. So every development application that requires an architect or a landscape architect or those or someone with heritage experience, one of our principal architects, they also, just like as if you're an engineer in water and waste, etc., they also have to provide feedback within that statutory timeframe, which is very tight. So they're looking at what else they can do in addition to meeting some of those timeframes and also being involved in a lot of the strategic planning work that's going on behind the scenes.
Okay. Other questions, comments? If not, there's a motion before us then, councillors, that the Planning and Development Group report be received. Moved by Councillor Kerry, seconded by Councillor Edwina. Those in favour? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you, Dr. Nicola. Councillors, are you happy to push on just for other? I think we'll keep going. Jake, welcome to you. We move to item 17.2, which is Water and Waste Services. And Jake, welcome to you. Thank you for your attendance today, and I'll hand over to you for the group report.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and good afternoon, councillors. What a month Water and Waste has had. There's been significant work across a number of different projects, as well as making sure, as I said in our group report conversation committee, that we keep the water flowing, we keep the sewage moving, and we keep our bins getting flipped. So I'm happy to take the report as read and answer any questions you might have.
Thanks very much, Jake. We'll go to Councillor Melissa and then Councillor Trevor.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Jake. Great report. 2 questions, if I may. Page 2 of the first attachment, under the Highfields trunk water main paragraph, it says that residents will receive notices advising of potential pressure changes. Are we talking good pressure changes or not so good?
Thank you, Councillor, for the question. I guess it depends on your perspective of what is good. As far as pressure changes for TRC's network, it's probably good in that we'll see some lower pressures in some of our networks. But from a resident's perspective, depending on how high their pressure may have been, we're expecting to see some of those pressures come down, but they'll certainly remain above what is our required service standard. So it's just a change in some of those I suppose higher areas that would have been fed from Mount Kynoch will now be fed from the Bullgut Road booster pump station. So they'll see some pressure changes, and we'll just notify those residents.
Okay, if I may then, do you know when the notifications will go out, Jake?
As soon as the work is ready to be completed. So we're doing some preparatory notifications now, or if actually I think Councillor Bill's already got one. So some may be going out, some will be in the process of going out. So it's part of an ongoing process, councillors.
Great, thank you. And one last, if I may, please, Mayor. Jake, thank you for the Crestbrook Dam Safety Improvement Project illustration, if that's what I can call it. It's a really great landing page and gives some really great information. But under design packages, can you just explain that graphic a little bit more for me? The one on the right-hand side there. I just don't quite understand it.
No, it's not a problem, Councillor. So we've got the total number of packages there being the 16 that are required to be completed and the 7 that have been submitted. And then you can see the various stages of those packages. So 9 of those packages are at 80% design, 1 of those packages at 50% design, with 6 of those packages at 100% design of the total. So just Council a bit of an understanding of where we are in that process, with a total at this stage estimated, although probably to be revised, around submission to the Dam Safety Regulator. So just gives Council a bit of an indication on where we are in those respective stages of design, as well as the number of packages that are moving through the process.
Thanks, I do get that now. Sorry, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Melissa. Councillor Trevor, then Councillor Kerry, Councillor Edwina, Councillor Tim.
Jake, this is a July report. We had some substantial rain in August. Perseverance, Crestbrook, how are their capacities at the moment, and when do we start releasing some water for Crestbrook for this dam upgrade to occur?
Thank you, Councillor Menteifel, for the question. Yes, it's always great to have a dam safety project in the middle of what's predicted to be one of the wettest summers we've experienced in recent time. So that in itself will come with challenges. Fortunately, I have the figures for rainfall. That significant portion of rain that we had towards the back end of last week finished up at about Thursday. So out of that, we received 70 millimetres in Kubi. So Kubi increased by 70 millimetres. Perseverance Dam increased by 200 millimetres. And Crestbrook Dam increased its level by 90 millimetres. Now, to give council some indication, Crestbrook Dam, through consumption and the increased drawdown that we've implemented as part of the turning of the bores off through town, so that's been underway for quite some time now. We've been experiencing about a 10 millimetre per day reduction in dam level. So essentially, we got about 9 days worth of rain into that storage. As far as your question around when are we going to look to start releasing? As part of our processes, as we let council know prior to the releasing, we need to do some environmental due diligence and to go through that process. And we have identified a couple of species of concern. We just need to put some management plans in place, as well as deal with some of those potentially affected residents that we highlighted in that initial report. And we're working closely with those to make sure there's not disruption to those residents before we commence the release.
Thanks, Jake.
Thanks, Councillor Trevor. Councillor Kerry.
Thanks, Chair. Just General Manager, if you wouldn't mind going to waste collections, and there's a curbside collection services graph there and so on. A couple of things there. The residual, this is a graph about bins that are collected as opposed to quantity of material in them, I presume. Does it sort of indicate that we've got fewer people putting out bins or fewer people have bins? Because the figures for June this year are somewhat, are considerable. They're less than they were a year ago, for example. Some sort of theory about that?
Thank you, Councillor Shine, for your question. I think that graph in particular looks at the net weight, so the amount of, weight of rubbish that our collections contractor is receiving from our community, and those numbers that you allude to there, Councillor Shine, probably are more of an indication of the general reduction of waste across the community. However, what we do look at is the general proportion between residual waste and recyclables and green waste. So looking at ensuring, if we scroll down for me, please, Wendy, if we look down to the next two graphs, that's how we're progressing in relation to achieving those diversion targets. Because as council is aware, we pay for every tonne of rubbish that we bury as a community. So making sure that in the top graph there, we're looking at those facilities. So our facilities are performing well. So when someone comes and drops off their waste at one of our facilities, we're extracting the recyclable materials out of that, or the community is going around to the various locations and stations and minimising how much has gone to landfill. However, when it comes to those waste diversions as a result of curbside collections, you'll probably see that there's been a bit of a historic decrease, probably since some of those peaks in around June, July 2022. We're starting to see us move further away from that lovely red line, which is our 45% diversion target. What we're doing, councillors, around that is looking to participate as part of the state government's initiative. I think the terms there is Let's Get It Sorted, which looks to do a bit of an educational campaign in amongst the community to really drive home putting the right thing in the right bin, and also minimising the amount of waste that generally goes into landfill. So we've got some work to do in that space to educate and inform our community, but we certainly feel, our team feels that they're up to that challenge.
To follow on, if I might, there's a huge spike in January. Is that sort of something to do with the post-Christmas throw out for presents or whatever?
I suspect, Councillor Shine, yes, it probably has something to do with generally the old term of spring cleaning within our community tends to happen slightly after the festive season, midway through the school holidays. In that January sort of period, everybody's got a bit of time, takes the opportunity to maybe tidy up around the house as such. So it's not just across the total the residual waste. It also see an increase in those in the green waste. But we'd hope to see in future years maybe the community moves a little bit more to some recycled packaging, so we can see a peak in recycled packaging around that post-Christmas celebration period.
Thanks, Councillor Edwina, and Councillor Tim.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, Jake, for this report. I really like the dashboard, so thank you for including that. Just a quick question on it with relation to the drawdown. So because we haven't started and it is declining down, is that just purely from usage and from turning off the bores?
So thank you, Councillor Edwina. We have commenced drawdown. What we haven't commenced is releasing water out of Crestbrook. So part of those initiatives was around managing our full supply level and looking to increase usage out of the Crestbrook Dam. Although I would point to councillors that this is the June report, simply because of timing associated with it. We provide data as accurate as we can up until the end of June. It's then submitted as part of the council July report, which is then presented to council in August. So I would expect maybe not next month, but certainly the months after, hopefully we should see maybe a little flattening of that curve before we start to see a bit more of a downward trend again. That, of course, depends on the amount of rainfall we might receive.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Rennie. Councillor Tim.
Chair, thank you, Jake. Good morning. Also on the great infographic available to the public, I just had a question on the cash flow and expenditure report. Obviously, the amount of budget that has been allocated is way above what is actually being spent. You probably are expecting those orange and blue bars to flip, but I wonder if you have perhaps a communications piece to the public, because we've gone and said, well, this is where the majority of our budget's going, and it is going there, but the orange isn't matching the blue. So just wondering your take on that at this time.
Thank you, Councillor Mann, for your question. In relation to cash flow, as I said previously, the Crestbrook Dam project suffered from a few delays, and some of those delays we still have not yet to resolve. So one of those is, and the major one you would have seen in around January, February, was the award and then subsequent acceptance of insurance. And as Council knows, there's 3 tranches of insurance to be procured by the Alliance. We've procured to date only 2 of those tranches, with the major tranche yet to be procured. But we are in the final stretch as such to procuring that insurance, and the remainder of the gap is predominantly around some of the delays that we've experienced with resourcing, with ability to access certain sections of the dam, as well as some of our approvals processes that we've gone through. We had anticipated that we would be able to resolve some of these issues through design, but some of our state and federal government colleagues have some alternate, ideas as to how best to resolve some of those issues. In particular, fish passage is one of those ones that is a very important component of any works associated within a waterway, so we need to make sure that we're assessing and addressing those. So it's probably a bit more symptomatic of a slower than anticipated start with some delays that we haven't yet been able to work through. As far as seeing those numbers flip, Councillor, what I would draw your attention to is that the net result of the project budget has not changed. It's still a $266.2 million project. What we expect is that those, and a significant portion of that is risk and contingency. Anybody that has looked historically on dam projects knows that there are a number of unknowns and risks that do tend to eventuate throughout the life of the project. We're experiencing one of those being delays at this point in time. At this stage, we're still tracking to overall budget. It's just a case of the phasing of the project may shift.
Good. Councillor Tim, that's any other questions, councillors, in regard to water and waste? If not, we've got a motion there that we've got before us, which is that the Water and Waste Services Group report be received. Have someone moved by Councillor Tim, seconded by Councillor Bill. Those in favour? Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. Mike, welcome to you. Mike Brady, the GM of Infrastructure Services Group. This is item 17.3, councillors. Mike, welcome to you, and I'll invite you to present your group report and then we'll go to questions. Thanks.
Good afternoon, councillors. and it's great to be here. Through you, Mr Mayor. Table the Infrastructure Services Group report for July 2024 and take it that it's been read, and happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mike. Any questions, councillors, in regard to the GM's report for Infrastructure Services Group? Quite a comprehensive report. Councillor Melissa.
Thanks, Mayor. Thank you, Mike, for the report. 2 questions, if I may. I'll start with the first one. The Toowoomba bypass. I've been on that regularly the last little while and noticed that there's still works being done on that. Do we have an update from TMR? Because that was supposed to have been completed some time ago. Just wondering where we're at with that.
I might take that one as a question
Yeah,
without
absolutely.
notice and just go to TMR and get an update and then forward that on to councillors. That's
That'd
probably
be
the best way in respect to that one.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, I haven't had any recent updates. No.
Okay, thank you. The other question I have is about West Street. Now, we all know that there's been, some pretty horrific incidents along West Street, particularly in the last few months. But this has actually been going on for quite some time. I'm just wondering, we can. Well, I compare West Street to the likes of, Margaret Street, where we got black spot funding for Margaret Street, and the lights have gone in there to assist with that black spot there. Is West Street a possibility for black spot funding? Because there have been some pretty horrific incidents along there, and the traffic is exponentially growing.
Yeah, no, thank you for that question. We have applied previously and received black spot funding for various intersections along West Street. I'd be able to come back to you with where we have had black spot funding invested, but I think, what have we done? I think Margaret Street with the intersection, that might be the current one. Previously, Russell with the roundabout, there's been improvements over the years there. So these intersections from time to time do get upgraded. There's some work presently, I think it's for future black spot for Bridge and West, so down the northern end. So it is a section that unfortunately does exhibit, with the volume of traffic using it, and it is one of our major north-south links, and obviously, and then the intersections. So traffic volumes over the years have grown substantially. There's a lot of pressure on a lot of those intersections. We've put time restrictions on turning right on a number of those intersections and things like that to try to reduce the frustrations that occur, and people sort of trying to take, in many cases, too smaller gaps. So it's ongoing, but at the moment, so I can get a little bit more information on that if that's a little bit would be good.
That'd be great, Mark. And is it possible to maybe put that into next month's report, because there has been quite a lot of public scrutiny over West Street, particularly the southern end of West Street towards the university. That Stenner Street, Spring Street sort of area.
Yeah, it does narrow down to single lanes in each direction, and at various peak times it can be a little bit congested. It's one of those significant those challenges that to do anything of significance would be very costly. Yeah.
Great, thanks, Mark.
Councillors, any other questions in regard to ISG? If not, Mike, I'll just make a comment, if I don't mind, in regard to the flood recovery program, which is, again, another very useful graphic, and the local spend, the local benefits of 72%, which is the combined contract to spend 72 million into the local economy as a result of that, which from a target of 60%, I would suggest is a very good result locally, and you're finding that the work has been to a level that is satisfactory from an engineering perspective?
Yeah, no, it's been very beneficial from that local perspective. There's been, the ability for a fair bit of upskilling of a lot of our local subcontractors, quite a number of like concreters and things like that have come onto the project. They've moved, from just pouring slabs and driveways and that sort of things to learning how to construct, culverts and other civil infrastructure. So that's been very useful. And yeah, so that upskilling of the local labour force is, evident through different elements, and a lot of credit to the our two major contractors, Georgia and Golding, taking it's been part of the project from day one to ensure that we get as much local benefit, not just the dollars, but capability uplift as well.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. There's no further questions. Comment, Councillor Carroll, question? No, happy. Okay, that the Infrastructure Services Group report be received. Moved by Councillor Carroll, second by Councillor Bill. Those in favour? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you, Mike. We then move directly to item 17.4, which is the Environment Community Services report, a group report for the month of August. And Nick, you're taking care of this one and potentially the next one. So that's good. Thank you and welcome to you. Do appreciate you being back up here to present the report, and then you can go to questions. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon now, councillors. Yes, back in my capacity as General Manager Environment Community Services, and it gives me great pleasure to present the Group Monthly Report to you and take any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Nick. Councillor Melissa.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, Nick, for the report. We are always looking to better our systems and streamline things and assist with the systems within council. For the information of the community, can you explain a little bit more about the Customer Experience Together program with the online booking that went live in June for the Toowoomba Regional Art Gallery?
Yeah, sure. It's a good example of that streamlining of the way that we do things to make it easier to deal with council, and independently it got a run in the Finance and Business Strategy Group report as well. Both reports were prepared independently, so we both thought highly enough of it to give it a run. So it's just about making it easier for people to make those bookings with us for the use of our art gallery services. It's all online and eliminates some of the steps, automates some of those processes, so it makes us more efficient, frees the team up to be doing higher value things, and makes it a better customer experience for all.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, councillors? Councillor Tim and Councillor James.
Good morning, Nick. Just thought I'd ask, this time every year in about 1 month from now, the phones will ring hot saying, please mow the parks. And right now, for the last 3 months, the grass has not required any mowing, really, because it's been winter. And so we usually see that as spring comes in, go through the roof. So I suppose preparedness is key. I'm just wondering if you could reaffirm the community that the team is ready to meet the grass needs of spring and that all the mowers are primed and ready to go.
Yeah, good point, Councillor Tim. And yeah, look, winter time gives us an opportunity to do some of those things that we don't ordinarily get to. Our upkeep and maintenance of our plant and equipment's important, so they're all ready to go. We do get to attend to some other things that aren't grass cutting over winter time, and so when the weather warms up and that grass starts to take off again, we typically get a little bit longer than September for the weather to warm up and retention of that heat in the soil to encourage that growth. So certainly around the end of September and beginning of October, it will be taking off, and we'll be ready to meet it as best we can. Of course, it becomes difficult for us when we have continued wet weather, and I've said it here in this room before, the difference for us in trying to maintain parks and open spaces compared to trying to maintain the grass at home, you're pushing a mower around that weighs 20 or 30 kilos compared to the heavy tractors that we use, and they do a fair bit of damage if we're operating in wet conditions. So that's always a challenge for us. We can't always get onto that grass as quickly as you might expect, and that leads to delays, and backlogs then become self-defeating, but we're always as prepared as we possibly can be. Yep.
Good, thank you. Councillor James, you happy to move? Okay, well, let's put the motion up on the screen. If there's no other questions. Question? Councillor Trevor?
Mistletoe in trees. You're driving around now, trees that lost their leaves. I believe you guys were going to do something about that, or poison it, or goodness knows what. But there seems to be a lot around, and we don't seem to have done much for the last few years. What's your thoughts, or what actions are happening?
Yeah, so there was a media release last week about us attempting to do some works there. Unfortunately, when it comes to dealing with that mistletoe, it often requires the pruning back of trees, so we lose that canopy. And you're right, when they're in winter and in their deciduous mode and they've dropped those leaves, it's prominent and you can see it. And in summertime and in spring, when they're full of leaf growth, we don't see them. So it's an issue that's always been there. There are different types of mistletoe. Some of it is not real good for tree health. Other types of mistletoe don't have the same health impacts. So our expert arborists are always monitoring that, but you're right, it has sort of seemed to have taken a bit more of a hold, and we'll be implementing some pruning techniques to take that mistletoe out, but that will see the reduction of, the bulk of canopy in those trees in order to do that.
Yeah, probably good for people to know, and we've put that release out, so thank you for that. The motion before us is that the Environment and Community Services Group report be received. Moved by Councillor James, seconded by Councillor Bill. Those in favour? Motion's carried unanimously. Okay, last group report is item 17.5, Finance and Business, and Nick, you're taking carriage of this one today, and noting the presence of Andrew as well in the room if it gets a bit too technical. Thank you.
Yes, correct. Thanks, Mayor. I'm going to take carriage of this one. Anne-Marie is due back, but had some delays this morning, so here I am. And again, it gives me great pleasure to present this report. I had a great time acting GM Finance and Business Strategy for the last 3 weeks, and a special shout out to the management team in particular. They were ever so supportive, and it's evidenced by their attendance here today, and it gives you an indication of Anne-Marie's value to the organisation, because here I am and I need to be supported by a couple of branch managers as well.
Thank you, Nick, very much indeed. Councillors, any questions for Finance and Business Strategy Group? If there's not, there is, Councillor Edwina.
Thank you, Chair. More of a comment, actually. And Nick, I think you've done really well sitting in the FNBS team. So thank you for your time. And to our CEO, Brian, I think that it's really great to see the general managers filling in across the different departments. I know we as councillors are now sitting in different areas of the business and backfilling in that way. And also now that Nick's backfilling, it's enabled Hugh Dunn to step up in this time, but also have Nick here as a sounding block if he needed help. So I think it's worked really well, and I encourage more GMs to work across areas in the future.
Thank you. So therefore, it sounds very much like you're happy to move this, but the way that
very happy to move this.
There. The motion before us there is that the Finance and Business Strategy Group report be received. Moved by Councillor Edwina, seconded by Councillor Gary. Those in favour? Those against? Okay, we'll go again. Councillor Kerry. Those in favour? Okay, those it's carried unanimously. Councillors, that does conclude the meeting for August. I appreciate working through to get to this point in a timely fashion, and I think if there was a theme that came through on a number of different reports and what have you, it was that this council is committed to looking at ways of doing things differently and better, and that seems to be our theme, and I thank you for following that through. Thank you to those watching online. Appreciate your attendance, and those in the gallery, thank you very much, and we appreciate your attendance today. Thank you, CEO Brian. Thank you, councillors. They're end of the August ordinary meeting of council.